Let's talk more about this with former federal prosecutor and CNN legal analyst Shan Wu. Good morning to you, Shan. So many questions, but let me just read you part of the White House attorney Emmett Flood's letter, which it is notable that it came out a day after the redacted report was released. And here's what he writes, that Mueller needed to, quote, either ask the grand jury to return an indictment or decline to charge the case. Goes on to say the special counsel instead produced a prosecutorial curiosity, part Truth Commission report and part law school exam paper. What's the play here with this? Why do this? Why keep changing strategies? First, Mueller is honorable, and this is great for us, and now they're mad about what the form this took.
I think the reason for the change of strategy is probably they got to look at what was in the report and realize that it was very damaging, even though he had not chosen to reach a final prosecutive decision about obstruction. And so that was part, I think, of the kind of lawyer aspect of wanting to downplay the report and question its integrity and authenticity. It's unfortunately, he calls it I think a prosecutorial curiosity. And of course, it is a very unusual situation. So it's not like there are normal reports like this. And it's quite clear that you can defend Mueller's interpretation of what he was supposed to put forth because he did do a declination memo. He put out all the evidence. And he said he wasn't reaching a decision, and he put that out for the Attorney General to look at. So that seems perfectly proper.
What about, Chen, another interpretation of this, what Bob Mueller, and it's not my original idea, a lot of folks have theorized that he was basically presenting the evidence to Congress and saying, Congress, it's up to you. You know, you have, as a co-equal body, a course of action here if you so choose to do so, which would be to impeach, and here is the evidence as I found it. Do you interpret it? Do you believe that was Mueller's intention, in effect, to say it's Congress's call?
I think it's hard to know if that was his intention because he failed to make explicit what his intention was. He certainly would have been well aware of the historical precedent, the so-called Watergate roadmap. And he also did say that he wanted to make sure that they preserved the evidence for the future. And that is what he did. And I think knowing what I do about him a little bit, from having known him and worked with him, I think he had a pretty narrow focus, and he felt he had to preserve that evidence, and then whoever was going to do whatever with it, that wasn't going to be his issue, but he would make sure he did his job and get all the evidence out there.
Can we talk about Don McGahn and what he is going to do? Because he sat for 30 hours of testimony before Mueller's team. He has mentioned 150 times in the Mueller report. And now the president's saying, no, I don't think he should be allowed. I'm not going to allow him to testify. A, didn't he already give up that right by waiving executive privilege for McGahn to talk to Mueller? But B, McGahn doesn't work in the White House anymore. So does it matter if the president wants him to testify or not? Does he have any control over that?
It's a little bit of a complicated question. I think the White House will have a legal argument to make that they still may possess the privilege, and they are obviously arguing, as Flood already put out there, that they didn't waive it even though he testified to that. So on that point, it's a little bit nuanced to the legal argument. My view of it is courts are reluctant to say there's a blanket waiver. If you make one statement which is a arguable waiver, that eliminates your entire privilege. And here it's a little bit more complicated because there's some constitutional issues too, but there are very strong arguments on both sides that A, you can't just completely waive it, and B, that he did waive it. On a personal note for McGahn, if I was advising him, I'd certainly tell him, you better show up and testify. And if I was speculating about him with a crystal ball, I mean, he seems like a lawyer who has a conscience. He's concerned about his professionalism, maybe his bar license, and he wanted to be truthful with Mueller's team. So I don't think he's going to take it upon himself to defy Congress at this point.
Did you just say a lawyer with a conscience, Shan? Did I hear that correctly?
They exist.
I'm standing up for all lawyers today. We all have consciences.
I'm the daughter of a lawyer.
I
you're a
know. I
king.
have a lot of friends who are lawyers.
Shan, thanks. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.